So I've been trying to figure out how to tell this story for a long time. And I can't because it's really complicated. And it's only complicated because it's complicated. It's as complicated as this puzzle right here. This puzzle right here is a 500 piece puzzle. And I don't have the picture for it in front of me, and I'm not going to show it. I do have the picture. But my point is that imagine doing a 500 piece puzzle and without a picture. But for me to tell the story, I can only break off one piece at a time. So I can't tell this story in one sitting because of all of the characters that are in it, all of the things that have been done, all the agencies that have been involved, all of the court records, the police records, the doctors' records, the fake doctors' records, the police report. Did I say police reports yet? Court reports for custody and then support, and for the fdia, fictitious disease imposed on another, all the lying that was done about my son, the things I knew and didn't know, I can't break it down into one sitting. For me, it has been this journey up to today to be able to explain the complexity of the story. So for me to start, I don't really understand the entire situation. Pause for this helicopter. Okay, that was weird. Uh, from beginning to end, to do it in one sitting that started 23 years ago, it would be impossible. I would maybe be able to tell one side of the entire piece, one at a time. So it would be rude of people to hear my story and then start to uh, comment about things, because there's no way to see or to tell the story in its whole entirety, because the story hasn't ended yet. And the reason why the story hasn't ended yet is because my son is in need of an MRI to this day, because that is proper protocol for medical traumatic brain injuries, and that is how. That is why the reason to tell this story is because my son, who is now 23, doesn't know that he almost died, and when he was 16 months old. And the fact that I never knew about it when he was 16 months old, and I found out it in 2007 by accident, by pulling his medical records, that he almost died. To tell the story about why and who was involved with it, his mom was involved with it, but the story that she told about his traumatic brain injury doesn't make sense. So there's a lot to unpack. So in this, in my story, in this story, it's kind of like this entire bag of. I can't tell it. I'd have to tell one piece at a time, and how each piece will eventually fit together. But I need time. I need time to unpack this. I need to unpack each piece of this puzzle so that eventually you'll see the whole picture. But it's the trickiness of this story. Who's involved? I mean, the fact that the governor of Pennsylvania was involved at one point, the fact that it was a commissioner of Bucks County, the general, what is it, the attorney general of Pennsylvania, judges of Bucks County, many judges in Bucks County. I said the county commissioner, administration from the courts in Bucks County, the fact that my son's mom works for Bucks County, and the fact that the child abuse phone call that I made when I found out about his near death, almost dying, which I'm not truly convinced that this was an accident that was reported to a pediatrician that he almost died, and why 911 wasn't called. Uh, for the 600 people that I've surveyed since 2007, when I found out that my son almost died, I started the questions then. I started to tell the story then. I would ask people, I have asked people since 2007 this one question. If you're in charge of a 16-month-old child and this child took a fall, fell to the ground, hit its head, laid limp on the floor, passed out, vomited, eyes rolled back over his head. This is what I found in a medical report. He doesn't walk yet. Where was my son? How come this is reported to a pediatrician and not called 911? There's a reason why she hid that. And I don't have a clue as to why. It's a puzzle to me. And I have to tell a story about things that don't make sense to me in one little piece that make up a whole puzzle that it happened to me and my son. The fact that he almost died and I never found out about it. They never treated him for what he was supposed to do. If you get a TBI, you're supposed to get an MRI or a CAT scan. But you're not supposed to hide it from the medical field like this mother did forever. Nobody ever found out about it after it happened. I didn't even know about it until after it happened. There's so much that I know, there's so much I don't know. The problem is how to explain this whole situation dealing with medical abuse, educational abuse, parental abuse, abuse to the system that she works for. It's impossible. It's impossible for me to. It's been impossible for me to even begin telling the story about what this piece means and what this piece means and what does this piece mean. How does it all fit together? I don't understand it. I've been laboring to try to find the words to explain to people and to explain to my son his need for today an MRI so he can have a healthy life. Because he could be having a ticking time bomb in his head, but because he's had 2 concussions, 2 traumatic brain injuries, and they were never under MRI because she hid them from himself, from doctors. She lied about the situation. And his little baby brain smashed so hard, he went unconscious. So I asked those 600 people. I began with one person at a time in 2007. What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you do with that child? What do you do? It happened. He's on the ground. The child is 16 months old, 25 pounds, on the ground. What do you do? What's the first thing you do? The number one question, the number one answer in the past 18 years since I've been asking the 600 people who know who they are, those people know. Those people did not know they were part of this story because I began asking that question. They didn't know each individual person that I've asked for 18 years, over 600 people in the Delaware County, in the Delaware Valley, and beyond, down to Alabama, Atlanta, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. The question I asked, when I was an Uber driver, Lyft driver, I asked parents. When I was a server, if I was in business with somebody, if I would ask, I've asked a question to over 600 people for over 18 years. The question is what is the first thing you do for that child? What is the first thing you do in general? That was the question. That's how I phrased it. Some were parents, some were not, that I asked. Some were future parents and some at the time weren't. Some were old, some were young, some really young people I'd ask. As a server, I remember asking the teenagers at the Applebee's in Newtown, what's the first thing you do? And Young, old, new, old. The number one answer, the number one most popular answer was you call 911. That was the number one answer. The second most popular answer was is maybe not medically correct to do. You pick up your child and you rush them to the emergency room because they are unconscious. 600 people, 18 years, not one person, not one of 600, not one person of over 600 people that I've personally surveyed, and they know who they are because they're just important to the story. The number two answer: pick them up, take them to the hospital. Even though you could have brain neck injuries, people like I said, that wasn't the most number one answer. This woman who knows the law, who works in the judicial system, who works for the county, who works for the courts, who works for the judges, who works for the people, sworn oath of office before being a court reporter to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, lied to the doctor. She called and made an appointment with the pediatrician and then lied about its facts. And then it never came up again. Not in his medical records, not in his future, until I found him by accident in 2007 when I pulled his medical records. It's hard to say this because she's suffering from fdia, which is fictitious disease imposed on another, just like Gypsy Rose's mom, Dee Dee Blanchard. She's a pathological liar who works with the law, with the DAs, with the prosecutor's office. She's just sit there and she does a sonography in the courts. She's been doing that for over 23 years. So when I call and I say, I got this report, I got this piece of paper that says my son almost died, and the facts inside of it, it says he fell off of one step. On the report. One step, 7 inches. One step, 7 inches, hit his head in his ear, passed out, went limp, eyes rolled back of his head, threw up, vomited, doesn't walk yet. This is what the report reads. Fell for one step. One step does not cause a concussion of that magnitude. That would be a small bump on his head. But no, his eyes rolled back, he went limp, he passed out. This is 16 months old. And your first question is, call the pediatrician, make an appointment? Your child is sitting on the ground. Where the hell were you at? The child's on the ground. Out cold. Baby brain. Hits the ground. Passes out. The first thing you do is you think, I'm going to call the pediatrician. Now, 600 people weren't wrong. What you hiding? That happened to my son. That's a true story. 18 years. And he still has, well, he's 23, so 23 years ago, 22 and a half, he should have had an MRI after that one, but he had just suffered one the month before too, according to his medical records. The problem is how do you tell a story based on somebody who's got so many different stories behind it? It's just unbelievable. The fact that she works for the courts and the judges, and she thought not to call 911 to get emergency response for your child. The fact that she didn't call the police or the ambulance or nobody to come get him. The fact that she thought, oh, he's awake now, he's okay, I'm going to just go ahead and do the pediatrician. Not one of 600 people ever answered, called a pediatrician. Because she knew Her job was at stake. She knew if she called 911 and they investigated, she'd lose her child. She knew that. She knew hiding this was the bigger story. But guess what? Here it is. Here is one piece of the entire thing that I and my son have gone through. His TBIs, he has suffered a consequence of it ever since that happened. He had ear problems and head problems. He's had migraines. He's had symptoms of the traumatic brain injury, that not just the traumatic brain injury itself, but then there's post-traumatic brain. There's another set of help for them afterwards. There's post-traumatic brain injury that he was not afforded. So he's had 2 traumatic brain injuries. The last one on record that I know of, there could be more. Why not call 911? Well, she didn't. She escaped and about 9 people asking her questions. Because you're going to have the 911 operator, you're going to have the rescue squad, you're going to have the police, you're going to have the hospital, you're going to have the doctor, you're going to have the nurse, you have the social worker, and you can't leave the hospital until you've been checked out by a social worker. She knew that. She knew calling 911, putting this on the record, her job. So she called the pediatrician, then lied about it. Which I've always asked the question, how did that receptionist at Southampton Pediatrics in Southampton, Pennsylvania, answer the phone that day and say, okay, we're going to make an appointment for you to come see him, instead of saying, no. Go to the ER. Your child just fell down and he lost consciousness. Go to the ER. That's what you're supposed to do. But he wasn't afforded an MRI then. The problem is, he's got problems now. He's had problems with his ear. That's notated on that when he hit his head in his ear. He's had ear problems. He was misdiagnosed with seasonal allergies until I got him tested. He's allergic to her dog. He's been suffering for his whole life ever since that day. I can't talk to my son today. He won't respond to me. He won't talk to me. He won't look at me. He won't answer my texts. He won't answer my phone calls. He won't answer when the cops go to his house and say, this is a wellness call because your father's been calling you and you don't respond back. And he tells the cops, I'm not lying to I'm not trying to not see my dad, or I've been busy. I can't respond back. Tells the cops to tell me instead of him calling himself. He's a man with a disability who has a disability, who doesn't know that he has this brain damage. It's affected his daily life. The emotional abuse that he has suffered for the past 23 years is huge. There's another piece. There's another big piece to unwrap. So many pieces to unravel. His medical, his school, me being forced out of his life, kidnapped, or she took him away from me. She stole him using the courts that she works for. There's just so many pieces. But here's the here's the biggest thing. In 2007, when I read that report that he almost died, I was floored. I cried. I said there was my son. He needed help. No one was there to help him, and I didn't know. I'm reading this for the first time in 2007. This happened in 2003, August 23rd. And I'm reading this and I'm starting to cry. And I'm saying, my boy was left on the ground. And nothing was done for him. You don't call the pediatrician. You get medical help. You see what's inside the brain. You see where the concussion, you see where the blood is. You see where the damage is. You see what was hurt. You monitor him. He was not monitored for anything about that. He should have been kept overnight for and then had the social workers would have been called at the hospital to come check to see if the story pans out. It would never have panned out because what she wrote in the pediatrician report doesn't make sense. A 6 foot A 6-inch step does not make a kid pass out and hit his head so hard that he stops breathing. He's laying there flat, almost flatline, because it hits so hard that his brain swelled up around his skull. And he was in pain. I called the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline in 2007 when I found out about this. There's another piece. There's another problem. I called. I gave them my social, his social, her social, my address, her address, his address, his school, my employer, her employer. I told him the details about that paper. I said that this is an ongoing thing, and there's emotional things that are going on. He was kicked out of daycare, out of home daycare when he was 3, 4, 5, 6. Problems in school, problems at camp, problems everywhere. There was so many problems. He had medical problems. He had social problems. There was so much that was going. I told the city operator when I called and made this report, because when you suspect child abuse, the radio station that they play this on, it says if you suspect child abuse, call the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800, whatever it is. If you suspect, I suspected. I had it in writing. I have this document. I have what was not done for his benefit. I have how he was not taken care of, how he was neglected, how his needs were neglected. Not just there, but then in the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the court cases, and the child support, and all these crazinesses with the school they're telling me how she's just out of control and doesn't want to do anything that's right for him. And I got doctors telling me, I have school telling me this. And so I'm trying to convey this over the phone to the child abuse hotline in Pennsylvania, who took all of my information. And I'm here today because they never called back. Not a response. Nothing. Radio silence. This woman who works for judges for the county, for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, got a pass. How about that? How about that, people? Do all the mothers and fathers out there that have DIFUS on or you have child services on your rear? Here is a case where I give them all of this information. Well, no, not all of it. A couple pieces, the brain damage and the ongoing abuse. And they say, I tell them all of this and say there's a lot more behind it. Let's sit down and talk. And they don't call back. How about all you parents out there that, if this resonates with you, this story, how I phoned and I said, I need help with this woman. Something's wrong here. And I'm telling them something's wrong here. And they won't even pick up one piece of due diligence. And they gave her a pass. Why? Because she was white? Because she works for the courts? Because they didn't want to involve the county and to have their name tarnished? Well, wait a minute. Since when does my son get a free pass for abuse because the mother works for the county courts? How come he gets a free pass for abuse for the last 23 years, but 18 of them I called about, and then all the police reports that transpired after that point because I called the police needing their help to help me for him, and the shit that was going on, they gave her a pass on 2007 and every year after that. Whether it be court, whether it be CCES, whether it be custody, whether it be the police calling, whether it be the neglect that she's been doing. No one stopped this. Somebody in the county said, don't investigate. Somebody said, I made that phone call. Now that phone call goes from the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline main hub to another local hub, to another hub, then to Bucks County, where this all came from. So my phone call was made to Harrisburg. They have a copy of it. The other areas have copies of it. If not, there's a big problem because somebody took all my information when I made that phone call. There's a problem. Call away 100 tip hotline, and what? Some stranger's going to pick up the phone to get all my information? But they acknowledge that they are the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline. But then they said, Marge McHugh in Bucks County told me a few years back that I never made the phone call. Over the phone. Told me never did. So where did that phone call go? Who inside of Bucks County or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where that phone call taxpayer-funded system goes on, and they lost a phone call? That phone call, the one that involves a judge's underling, the county underling, the woman who works inside of the courts every day, she gets a pass? And my son has had to suffer that abuse and then some since 2007, but really started in 2003 and got worse and got worse. So I documented it. When they didn't call back and investigate, I began a diary, and I kept track every day because I was proactive about it. I wasn't going to let this go down. So I wrote down everything that happened day by day by day by day. I kept a journal and I kept a diary because my son was abused. They weren't coming to my rescue, but I had to be proactive because something really, really weird was going on with this woman. And it took me years. It took me 4 years, 5 years to figure out something was really, really seriously wrong. And that's when I called. But then it got worse because she knew she had protection from the county. So she made things even 10 times worse for my son, but then for me. So her knowing she's got a free pass turns the heat up on my son, makes things 10 times worse for him, makes it worse for me, lies to my family, lies to her family, lies to everybody. That's what a pathological liar is in fdia. That's fdia is. It's somebody who cannot tell the truth. And then fictitious disease imposed on another is Josh's medical. He never had she told CHOP he never had a traumatic brain injury, or 2 of them for that fact. She told him he has seasonal allergies. No, that's wrong, honey. She has allergic to your dog and dust mites. He suffered medically because of that, and then because of other things, and then emotionally, and then physically, and then internally. Like, this kid was beat up. He was beat up. See, I'm an adult. I can take care of myself. He's a child, and he has no way to defend himself, but he's getting hurt by the person that's supposed to love him. And she allows and she instigates all of these problems for him. So I write about it. Because if they're not going to help my son, I'm going to help him. So I wrote, and I hate writing. I hate writing. Never good in school at it. Never. Never liked typing. Got kicked out of typing. So I began a journal. And it's over 600 pages now. And each time that this story comes out, and it's really difficult to tell the story in one sitting. So I'm going to have to break that down into smaller groups. But what hurt me, the reason why it's difficult for me to tell the story is because I'm an American. I'm a proud American. I am a patriot. I love this country. It's been difficult for me to come out and say these things about my county because they're supposed to help protect me. They made a choice to investigate or not. That was their choice. So as an adult, I kept records, and I kept very, very good records. So when they made the choice to allow the abuse, physical abuse, emotional, and educational abuse happen to my son, they made a choice. They stood their ground, and they've stood their ground ever since. They have never come to my side with every police report, every phone call, every email, letter, whatnot, trying to show them how they were wrong by giving them the evidence, requesting to turn state's evidence. They have not come through at all. Not Bucks County, Pennsylvania, not one time. And I have tried to give them the information. Tried to, I've been in jail because of them. I went to jail for 13 months without a trial, without a conviction, all because I have all of this information. So Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Diane Marseglias in 2007 gave me her business card when I was working at Perkins in Doylestown, and she says, "If there's any time that you need any help, here's my business card. I'll be more than happy to help you." Diane Ellis Marsiglia, the commissioner of Bucks County, walks into my Perkins as I'm a server and hands me her business card. Who am I? Who's Josh? Where's the report? Where did it go? Who's Tess Sola? Why did Diane give me her business card? I still have it. No copy of it. The report disappeared the same time Diane came and visited my Perkins and gave me her business card. Didn't put two and two together back then. Not at all. I'll tell you, be honest with you, just crossed my heart, opened on my son's eyes. No one ever called back. I gave him my phone number, my email, my address, everything. There was no way they couldn't have not have called. They asked for all of my contact information on the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline. I gave it all. I gave him her social, her birth date, his social. Where'd that call go? I'm just asking. Because when I asked 600 people that question, they didn't know that they were involved in a story of this magnitude, where it involves cover up to the highest part of local government. So that phone call was made. Where's my Bible? My Bible's in the other room. That phone call was made. And my son still needs an MRI. And he's not well. He's not well at all. Emotionally, he has no relationship with me. And we had the best relationship for the first 10 years of his life until she stole him. So, with that, this is the beginning of the story. It took me literally years to get to the point of making this video to try to explain the complexity of how everything works out is here, but putting the puzzle pieces together is going to take time. So to scrutinize me for my thoughts and what I'm saying now, it has to be unpacked. So I deserve, and the story deserves time to unpack each one. So now that I've been able to find the words to describe how this may flow, I'm going to start with probably the TBI on the next one. And then I'll start talking about the diary. The 600 pages, I'm going to start to read out loud and to tell the story about what has happened. So my intentions is to say that a traumatic brain injury that was supposed to be hidden is now out in the open by somebody who works at the county of Bucks County as a court reporter for the judges, covered this up. The mother of my son, Tess Sola, I'm not convinced she tried to kill him. And Bucks County had a hand in this from jump. I'm not convinced. Not after 18 years of knowing about it and what I've gone through since then. Not at all. I'm not 100% convinced that she didn't try to. And that's hard. That's really difficult to say. But you got to understand everything that happened. You have to understand that. Well, I was going to leave this for the next video, but you call 911. That was available back in 2007. You call. You take them to the hospital. You don't call the pediatrician. When you have something to hide, you hide it. And she did such a great job of hiding it because when you're a court reporter, you know how these things roll out. Because you know what the judge does, you know what the police do, you know what the ambulance does. Because as a stenographer, your job is to listen to what the lawyers are saying and what the lawyers are saying and the prosecution and the defense, and you're hearing all these stories. And she's taking it all in. And she's saying, if I call, my job's done. So I better keep this quiet, so not call to 911. Okay, what about the boy? What about the boy? The boy was the priority, not your job, not your livelihood. The priority is the child. You. That's what the law system that you work for is there for the children. That's what 911. That's what the child abuse hotline's for. Save my child. Help me. Help him. And they said, no, we're going to help her. That's what they chose. They made a point in the sand. They drew a line in the sand. We're going to help her. We're not going to help him. Why? What did he do to deserve that? That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. As a county, when you get that phone call, you could have given it to a different county. They could have said, you know what, Bucks could have said, you know what, we want to make sure that we're going to investigate this, or because this sounds like a legitimate call, which they obviously said they didn't. So we're going to pass this off to Philadelphia. Okay. Philadelphia picks it up. Berks County picks it up. Another county picks it up. They investigate. They didn't. Because of the conflict of interest, that phone call coming to Bucks County, nobody picked up the phone call. Nobody expedited it. Nobody responded to it. So they delegitimized my phone call to them, and they stayed on the side of her. My son is 23. My Joshua Edel is 23 years old. And he has no idea what's going on. There's a truth to what's happened to my son. I've been without him for 13 years. I was with him for the first 10. That's another piece of, at some point, got to go through. But he needs help. And I texted him a copy of that report that says that he had the brain damage, the TBI, and he never responded. I called him, he never responded. I sent the police to his house, never responded. So to me, something is wrong here, and I don't know how else to explain it, but can somebody please help me to explain to my son who has brain damage that he's in need to go get a brain check because of that? Because of the years of problems because of that, which never stops. And he doesn't understand. He won't respond. He will not talk to me. I cannot get any sort of response from him. Joshua, I've tried calling, I've tried texting, I sent the police, I sent you a video. You have not responded. As far as I'm concerned, you're 23 years old. You don't want to hear from your father. That's fine. But here's the problem. Medically, that is yours to take. You have got to make that choice. But unfortunately, because they said you were 6 years emotionally behind your age. At age 18, you were really 12, 11. you're 23. Technically, by what the doctors gave me in writing, you're mentally 18, 17 maybe 17. You could be a minor still. I mean, you're 23. However, emotionally, according to the doctors and according to the schools, you're emotionally 17. So are you a minor? Or are you an adult? Because if you're an adult, and when you hear that you almost died and you could have a ticking time bomb in your head, and you say, I'm not going to go get checked out because you're weird, Dad, that's a problem. Because my responsibility as a father is to help my son get help. If he doesn't want help, why let it go? Well, if he was normal, I would say let it go. But he is not. Because the woman hurt his brain physically and emotionally, hurt his heart, hurt his body. It's a lot to unpack. So, to my son, I've asked you to get an MRI. I pleaded, you need to see a neurologist. You need to make sure that you are going to have a healthy life and to fix what is there, what could be, what may be there now, and how to live, what kind of future. Because last thing we want is we find out that you got a smack in the head and you're gone. I don't want that. I want to know now. You have a right to know. You had the right to know then. You have the right to know now. And your mother let it go then. I'm bringing it up now because I'm the dad. I'm the father. I'm responsible. No matter the cops telling me not to come back, the judges telling me to leave, never come back to Pennsylvania, the jail time I served, just because wanting to tell you that you have a medical reason and they're stopping me from telling you, and by putting me into jail is not stopping me from coming out on this side saying I survived all of these things. So I can tell you, so we can tell you, so the world can tell you, get an MRI. Because it was never supposed to be this complicated.